Hello, everyone. My name's Brian. That's my brother Adam, and we are the Factional Fight Brothers. Today, we are back in our labyrinth. Let's just turn around here. Back in our labyrinth, and we are on top of our second castle here, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
We're really trying really hard to finish this up. It's taking a long time, but we wanted to give you guys something special, even though we're busy, building up our labyrinth. It feels like we've been here forever, building up our labyrinth. God, it's got to be years now, hasn't it?
Yeah, in the years for sure.
That we have two special guests. We have Retrograde on our show, and we have Budda, and we're going to have a discussion with both of them while we continue our uplifting, battle of completing this Labyrinth Castle. Anyway, we'll see you guys after the break. All right, everyone, thank you for joining us. And like I said, we have, let's just see what our notes say. We have the man that we spent over 2 hours traversing his Midsummer's event. And maybe you can remind us, Retro, what your title is.
Community Relations Coordinator, basically Community Manager.
The Community Relations Coordinator / possibly the Community Relations Manager. And how are you doing?
I've been called a lot of things. Not too bad. Yourself?
Not too bad right now. Not too bad, especially whenever I have time to play Wurm. It's always a good day. And we also have the previous volunteer developer / now turned into games product manager. Does that make sense? We have Budda. How are you doing, Budda?
I'm good. How are you?
Not bad. Is that your official title, the product manager?
Yep.
So what is a product manager? What is your job turned into since you've last been on this show?
So these days it's mostly directing where the game's going, planning what updates we're having and all that, and managing the other volunteer devs. And then most of my time is actually developing.
Is it
So what you're trying to say is that you essentially now have full control over the development of the game? Is that right?
Pretty much, yeah.
That's awesome.
Ooh. That is much different than when we last spoke. And when we last spoke, Retro, what is your change? No, didn't we just speak like a few weeks ago? It feels like it's only been a few weeks. It's been more than that, hasn't it?
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah. Feels like only yesterday I got this mask in my inventory.
Well, yeah, Midsummer's was what, June?
Right.
Yeah.
End of June, I think. So, been 3 months. Wow.
Wow.
Okay, wow.
All right, and before we start grilling you guys with all these questions that we've written down, let's get started on this labyrinth. So have you started, Adam?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm going to figure out what I'm
Working
doing
on these
here.
walls over here, yeah.
I'm going to continue building these ladders because that's the most fun part of building a castle. Let's begin right now with this question. So, the game has been developed over the last year. What are both of your guys' favorite parts of what's been happening with Wurm? How about you, Budda?
Ooh. I actually like all the new development coming out of Wurm Unlimited. All the mods that people pull out. there's some nice ideas coming out of them.
So
Which
what
are
do
pretty cool to see.
what's like one of your favorites
Uh,
or notable ones?
ooh. There's been I saw one the other day that was pretty cool. I have to try and
You're
find
not
it.
allowed to use your own.
You're
Yeah,
not
I'm,
allowed to
I'm
use
trying
your
not to
mod.
pick my own. It's a bit sad. Yeah, there was one the other day that was a modified spawning of creatures. So it gave
Mhm.
GMs the option to spawn any creature they wanted, all the uniques and all that, but add extra abilities onto them as well. So
That's
you could
something.
spawn any creature you want and then add some extra stuff onto it, making it a bit harder to kill.
So when you guys see like all these mods that other people are creating for Wurm Unlimited, do you ever stop and think, okay, well, this would definitely work in Wurm Online? Like maybe we could take some of the code or do something similar. Like how would you guys go about that?
There hasn't been too many so far. Like, a lot of them don't really fit with Worm Online.
Mhm.
They'll fit in Worm Unlimited fine, but with the way that Worm Online goes, you can sort of tell that they don't really work there.
Are you guys free to do stuff like that? Just like borrow ideas that people, or get inspired by the ideas that people have on Worm Unlimited, and is that something that you're kind of open to?
Like, especially if you find that there is one that would fit in Worm Online. Like, are you free to
Inspiration, sure. If there was one that like worked out perfectly and we wanted it on Worm Online, I'd probably talk to the person who made that and make sure they're okay with it. And then
Awesome.
do something similar. Probably wouldn't copy their code exactly, because just the way that mods work on there.
Yeah, so for people, that are developing these mods, there you go. Just keep on working on them. So how about you, Retro? What's your kind of
What's your favorite recent addition to the game?
Okay, it definitely has to be the new building types.
Mm.
I was never a
Which
big fan
building
of
types?
parapets. Sandstone. I was never the new walls. I was never a fan of tall stone or parapets on houses. I always thought they were a bit funny looking. But since the new wall types that came out around mid-August, I've been so tempted to just wall in my entire deed because they look absolutely amazing in the new types. Like the sandstone parapet is just really, really cool looking, and the sandstone tall wall is too. So I'd have to say they're pretty high up there. That addition's just had me sitting there going, well, I could probably remodel again.
Yeah. And I know that you guys been teasing like a ton of just updates that are going to come in the near future. Like, I don't know. There's the UI updates. The tutorial's been teased. The animal cages are coming. We know that there's going to be a new skill, and we just revealed that skill on the other episode that we just did.
I think it's incredible at the rate at which things are happening. Like, if you looked at Worm 1 year ago and you look at it now, it's like tons of new stuff have been added to the game since then. The whole cooking update and everything like that. And like the fact that we're sitting at like a place where tons of stuff has just been added, and there's like this massive list of things that are yet to come that are coming down the pipe, and I think that's just amazing.
Is there anything that you guys can reveal to us that might be coming?
Asking a bit much, isn't it?
Well, I can reveal that lots is coming. How about that for a spoiler?
There you go. You heard
Oh,
it here first.
I have a
Lots is
question about
coming.
the UI. What's the time frame for that? Like, are we expecting to see that soonish, or is it still like an ongoing process and we're gonna it's like sort of in its initial phases of its development, we're not gonna see it for a while?
Yeah, I don't really want to give a solid time frame at the moment because it's still all up in the air, but
Mm-hmm.
it's probably not going to be this year.
Oh, okay.
That's not saying much though, since we're late in the year, but still.
Yeah, I figured as much. Not this year.
Yeah, we tend
Not,
to be pretty
not before
quiet.
Christmas.
Mhm.
We tend to be pretty quiet about the longer term updates because of that reason. We don't want people sitting there going, why isn't this coming in? Saying we're working on it's one thing, but providing updates constantly for it gets a bit, it sort of draws it out a bit too much.
Right. And I suppose things are constantly changing about it, so you don't want to give an update about where you're at and then all of a sudden you have to take back.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we've already scrapped one major thing of it and gone back a different way already. It chops and changes as time goes on, so it's a careful balance of making sure everybody knows we're still working on it, but making sure that when we provide information, that first impression is what's actually coming and not, we decided to change it after showing you this and now we're doing this.
Mm-hmm. No, Animal Cages is coming though, right? That's like
Yes.
coming soon. Now,
Yes.
what, where did that come from? Because I know like it's been a long desired feature. People have been asking for it for like as long as I remember, since I even started playing the game. Like, what prompted that update to start the ball rolling and on its development?
I think it was actually, I might be wrong here, but it might have been a Wurm Unlimited mod on some server in some form. Wasn't specifically
The
cages,
stable
but
master, yes.
yeah. And Ozimus decided he wanted to give it a go for as a proper built-in thing instead of a mod.
Okay,
So we
so
gave him the go ahead on that, and yeah.
So there's another example of a Wurm Unlimited mod
Yeah, that's true.
coming to
Like-
the game.
There are a lot of things like that that we want to do and could have done over the years. It's just time mostly.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Mhm.
see these mods coming out and they work pretty good and all that. So Osmos managed to put that together pretty quick and get it all tested and stuff.
That's awesome.
Worked out quite well.
Yeah. Who knows? Like,
We've only had to rescue about a half dozen testers so far. No
Yeah.
no one's been permanently dead yet.
I think Electra's turned into a cage at some point.
Yes, I think she still is one of her turns.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
and hopefully
And
she'll
what's-
just stay a cage.
And what's this I read about an 8-legged horse?
Yes, one of the jokes, basically crossing servers, they weren't working too well. So letting everyone know that we're still working on this project, because it was one of the ones that we actually shared quite early, because like it's a very popular suggestion, and usually when it comes up in suggestions, there's a lot of why isn't this in yet? So we wanted to basically say yes, this is being worked on, but of course things happen. We encounter issues like we're transporting between servers is a big thing. So yeah, that was just letting people know that it's still being worked on and throwing a bit of humor in there too.
Right.
Enki's well known for tinkering with things and such, so he doesn't mind being referenced to Dr. Frankenstein or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that like for a lot of people who are reading the news and they get really antsy and sometimes impatient when a feature like this, where it's so popular, everybody really wants it to come in and it's like just not coming in. And
Yeah.
I know it's mostly because you guys are just working on it and it'll come when it comes, but you
Well,
know.
that's it. I'd love to be able to say we're working on this, but the problem is it has to be within a deliverable time frame. Saying we're working on this and it's coming in next few updates is very different to we're working on this and it will be out at some stage. We need to be able to get people excited, but also keep them excited, and so it becomes that balance.
Right.
That's why we tend to make a few teasing statements leading up, and then when it's the actual launch of something, we will start showcasing a lot more of what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about teasing some future things that are coming. October's coming, and I was, under the impression, probably like mostly other people, that we're just going to get what we're used to when October comes, and that's the Halloween update that always comes out, and things get pumpkins on top of them, and like some creatures change and they look like
I
oak
love the
trees
oak
and that
trees.
sort of thing. Yeah, we all love the oak trees. But then there was a little, I guess, hint at something else happening. What's that about? So what exactly is happening this October?
Oh, you'll just have to wait and see.
I
What
have
can
no
you
idea
tell
what
us?
this hint is. So
What was the
I'm pretty
hint?
sure the hint was you'll have to wait and see.
There's but
Okay.
there's something new coming. That much you can say. Something different to what we've known in the past.
Yes.
Ooh,
See?
God,
I
what
can't
could
wait.
that be?
I don't think I've been told about this.
Okay. Oh man, so we're just gonna have to wait. Is it gonna come in the middle of the month, or right at the end with Halloween?
I think it's planned in time around towards the later of the end of the month.
Okay, so somewhere closer to Halloween.
Which
Nothing we
makes
can
sense.
build towards. Huh.
If I recall correctly, the update usually, or like all the trees come alive, closer to Halloween it comes.
Yeah, the graphics changes are usually, about basically half a week around Halloween either side,
Mm-hmm.
but usually shorter depending on how many people complain. Some people don't like their pigs turning into pumpkins with tentacles.
Demon
Yeah.
pumpkins.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want a demon pumpkin pig? I don't know.
Crazy people, that's
Yeah, crazy, you crazy people. Tree collision.
Right.
What exactly took so long to bring that back? Or
Well, even
why
before
did
that,
it
what?
go
Right.
to begin with?
From what I recall, there was a bug to do with the collision when we changed the collision ages ago.
That's what we thought.
So this was like back when the bridges were just coming in, and the
Yeah.
collision system had to be like adjusted to help bridges.
Yeah. Might have been houses actually,
Okay.
or oh no, it might have been bridges because it was when
I feel like it was around
stairs were added.
bridges.
Yeah, because stairs were at the same time. Yeah, we had to rewrite most of the collision back then to handle all those new types of models.
Mm.
And apparently there was a bug with the trees back then. This is before I had my hands on it, so I'm not really sure.
Mm.
So does it seem like that bug lasted all the way till now, or was that bug like solved?
No.
But then you guys decided to just keep tree collision off?
I think they thought it was solved by the time Wurm Unlimited came out. This is, a year and a half or 2 years after it had been disabled on Wurm Online.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So they kept it turned on Wurm Unlimited, and I think the plan back then was to see how it goes on there. If anything bad happens, then we fix it. Otherwise, we'll turn it on Wurm Online.
Did
And then it
anything
just
bad happen?
Didn't. No,
Ah,
not that
so-
I'm aware. It could have been turned on a lot earlier, but we decided back then, we'll time it for the new client when the new client comes out, which just happened to get delayed and delayed.
And
So it
now
should have
it's-
been turned on a few weeks ago when the client came out, but we
Yeah.
forgot. So now it's turned on.
Yay! Uh, so it just came back on. I'm excited to run into trees again. I don't know about other people.
Yeah, there are a lot of people
It's a
who are
very strange thing to say, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I in the past actually designed a labyrinth, which I don't think I ever released. Which is sad because I don't even have blueprints or anything with that lab. I remember it being really, really cool too. And this whole area was just olive trees, where people would
The
have
worst.
to, figure out the way through. I can't remember. It was a really cool labyrinth because it was designed to be a race in particular. It was
we did build this.
Yeah, and we built it.
Yeah, we did. Okay, yeah.
And at the time, Tree Collision was there, and it wasn't until, it must have been much later that it was disabled.
Yeah, it was disabled by the
At
time
that
when
point,
I was on Xanadu.
Okay, yeah. So that was much after, and now that olive trees are kind of a little smaller, and I can't really build, like, they were so big that certain ways to go through the labyrinth you couldn't go just because the two trees were like next to each other blocking you. And even I didn't know the way through that labyrinth because I didn't know how big or small the olive trees could be at any given time.
So, if you just want to make it again, you have to petition the other players to bring back the big olives.
Right.
I'm sure you can a lot of support.
No, I think I'm fine now. I haven't actually seen how big or small the olives are compared to the way they were before. Just in the game.
They're easily passable now.
Yeah.
A lot of the resistance to the tree collisions thing, the large trees and getting caught in between them, which I'll admit was a lot of frustration I remember having as myself.
Mhm.
But with the shrinking of it, it's a lot easier to pass through.
And was it true, like people saying that creatures could hit you through the tree, but you couldn't hit them?
No, you can still hit them through the tree as
Yeah,
well.
that's what I
Yeah.
thought. Because I don't remember that
Yeah.
happening at all, even
No.
back when we were new players and we had
Right.
wolves hitting us. I remember being able to hit back, I just couldn't see them. And I
Yeah.
particularly remember killing a wolf. I think it was like 3 of us that we never saw, and we were searching for the corpse for so long and never found it. We were in the olive forest that we eventually turned into puzzles.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I know that the main argument that people are giving is that animals won't have to go around the trees, but rather can pass straight through the trees, while players will have to navigate by weaving in and out of the trees, meaning that it will be a lot harder to run away from those animals and survive.
I think
Like, I
that
know
in
that
that situation,
Budda, you mentioned
Huh?
that this was like you had a thought about how you were going to address this, but it's something that we'll have to wait till much later. Does that have it, like, is that connected to like the creature movement stuff that you've been working on recently?
Sort of. Like, when I was first working on that creature movement stuff, that's when I had the idea of making them path around trees as well.
Okay.
I just haven't had the time to go in and actually do that yet. I was waiting to test all this set of changes that's on Celebration before I start on that stuff.
How's that going?
I think it's actually alright at the moment, after this last update.
Okay.
they're no longer pulling at watering holes.
Right.
Yeah, broke up their parties a bit.
Yeah, no, I have a
That's
small I have a small deed on a Wurm Unlimited server, and I have a little pen with some animals, and I'm noticing they're all still going into the corner and piling up on one tile in there. So is it that like Wurm Unlimited isn't going to get any of this stuff for until like I guess their next update.
Yeah, they won't get it until it's out on Wurm Online on all servers.
Right.
Makes sense.
One thing with the tree collisions is a lot of people seem to think that they will stop movement entirely. Like you hit a tree, you will stop like you hit a wall. The thing is, though, is they're circles. You hit it, there is probably a 99% chance you will just simply, move around it if you're still moving,
Right.
Yeah.
So it won't actually be these creatures ghosting through things, whereas you're having to tap every button and run. If you hold auto run, you will pretty much weave through them anyways. It's just, not an open field that you can roam that just has some different graphics,
And also strafing doesn't lessen your forward motion, does it?
It does a little bit, I believe, but I haven't done a lot of the full testing.
Yeah,
Okay.
It depends what you call forward. Because once you're strafing, your forward is off to the side at that point.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it
Mhm.
would
You're
would
still going the
affect
same
your.
You would
it's
have
just
to turn a
different
little
direction.
bit to the
Right, I
right, let's
see.
say, and then strafe diagonally. Huh?
Yeah.
And
Well,
then,
even then, as you hit a tree, you will move to the side of it.
I think you're just making it more complicated now.
Well, we're trying to think of like the best strategy for getting away from an animal. Now,
Just kill them.
Well,
Yeah.
there you go.
we're,
The best
yeah.
strategies.
We're thinking back to like that first several months of a new player, where you're running the whole time. I mean, we made a video on how to run away from mobs. Little short video.
Whether you have tree collisions on or off at low level like that, you're still going to get eaten by a spider.
Right.
That's true.
Although I must say we were pretty good at not getting eaten.
Well,
What was
I-
great was the heart pounding like experience that you have when you're trying to get away from that spider, but have been quite a few successful escapes, I must say.
Yeah, it's not like it makes it impossible to escape from stuff either. Like, back when tree collisions were in Wurm Online, I can't remember ever having troubles escaping from stuff,
we
Yeah,
spent
right.
apart
our
from
whole
things that are really fast.
we spent our whole newbie life with tree collisions on. I didn't even realize they turned tree collisions off for like the longest time, because at that point I wasn't going through forest. But yeah, when I learned that, it was a little perplexing. So, but now it's been so long that people got used to it, and I'm still kind of not used to it. It's just kind of like, to me, bringing them back is just like
Putting it
the
back to
game's
normal.
whole again or something. I don't know.
I think a few people will be thinking back on the times where they got caught, as opposed to the 99% of times where it didn't matter at all. And
Yeah.
so they're going to react out of that 1% memory. The thing is changing olive and chestnut trees means there's very few cases in which you will get stuck. Literally, a tree has to be on the far right side of one tile, and the other tree has to be on the far left side of the other in order to catch you. And that's
And
That's
in which
so
case,
rare.
there's plenty of room on either side.
exactly. So, it's basically you can't auto walk through because if you get stuck, it's like, well, you're auto walking through and not paying attention. But if you're paying any sort of attention, it's very easy to do.
Right.
Um,
Now there are these people who are saying, "Oh, well, why don't you just why don't you add collision to things like forges and BSBs and this, that, and the other thing?" What do you say to that?
I'd love it. honestly speaking, I think that would be, in terms of immersiveness and all this, it would be great. But in the way things are currently set up, it'd be absolutely horrible. Like, having a huge, like, things like that would mean having large buildings makes sense. You need stuff spread out so you can move around. You can't just have everything piled next to each other because, suddenly that table you need to move around. Those BSBs basically block movement. So, it's cool in a sense of, that would have this system that, you've got to be aware of what's going in your house and everything. But
Uh-huh.
I think if we turned it on tomorrow, nobody would be able to get in and out of their house anymore.
I think that would be a
Yeah.
great experiment of seeing if let's say it was turned on, how big of a house would you need to do what you normally do in your house right now
That you currently do. Yeah.
that you currently
Well,
do.
it'd have more sense towards having those themed houses. Like, I love going to villages and they've got the smithy here, the bakery here, and they're really cool and it feels like a village. Whereas you look at my house and it's literally got forges in one corner, a loom in another, BSBs everywhere, tons of animal parts and dyes lying around, and it's really messy. But you can still all walk through it. If I couldn't walk through it, I'd be like, okay, so I need to sort of declutter this fast. And
Yeah.
I think you'd start moving towards lots of little buildings that are more purposeful, as opposed to being able to just chuck everything in.
I'd
In
almost
fact,
wonder. Yeah, go ahead.
that's the direction that I'm even leaning towards myself. Like lots of little buildings on my deed. Yeah.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
I'd almost wonder if you could, like, with the size of house, let's say you build a 1x2 or a 2x2, let's say, as you're starting out the game, so for new players, if they would be able to place the items that they need to play the game in a house that they are able to build skill wise, or if there would be like a disconnect between the items that they need to have to play versus the house that they have built for themselves.
Well, that's
don't
it. I
know.
think it would add a lot of things.
That would be interesting to find out. But in saying that, and to go into a completely different direction, I talked about how the new rendering system looks amazing. Like the shadows look great. Every time I'm under forests and I see little bits of light peering through the trees, it's just so amazing to me. But I don't know anything about. I know that it came with the new rendering system, but I have no idea what that means. What is a new rendering system? I don't know if either of you guys can explain what this rendering system is.
Oh, this is a long story.
Yeah, I had to get Budda
I
to
think we got
explain
some
it to me.
Yeah. I'm sure everyone's heard it, but this whole rendering system started 3, maybe 4 years ago.
Yes,
been
yes.
So long now.
Yeah, I remember when it was first announced. It was a long time
Yeah.
ago.
Back then we were like, oh yeah, it'll be done in a year.
Yeah.
But yeah, the guy we had working on it, he ended up getting a proper job and all that, and had less time and blah blah blah. That
Mm-hmm.
made it take a lot longer. But yeah, the basic gist of it is all the back end, all the OpenGL back end before this was coded in about 2004, 2005, I want to say.
Yeah.
And it
Little
was quite
outdated.
old. Yeah. And it had none of the new OpenGL technology, apart from shaders and all that, which were barely used.
Hmm.
But yeah, the new rendering system has rewritten all of that to be like how it's meant to be done these days. So things are rendered a lot faster, a lot easier, a lot more shaders doing things, which makes it a lot faster to render.
Is there any feature that this new rendering engine brings that you're kind of excited about that you can use for some features or something that you couldn't possibly have done before?
Yeah, or for like future development.
Is this a hint at wood types?
I don't know. Is it?
Yeah. In the future, yes.
So it
Is it
technically can be done now.
Technically, yes. It hasn't yet, but it's on the plans, obviously, as we've said for a while.
But
So
like,
is it-
I'm
The other
curious,
thing,
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
the other thing that I'm looking forward to is it now allows us to update to the latest engine backend, the LWJGL that we're using,
What will that bring?
and the latest version of that lets us run multiple instances out of the same process. So, meaning we can have the launcher open, and then you run a client of one character, and the launcher stays open. Then you run the second client of the second character, and they share resources.
That sounds nice.
So, yeah, you'd only have to have the models and everything loaded once, and it shares it across both windows.
Wow. So
Now, will
for
that
everybody that uses more than one character, that's exactly what they need.
Huh.
So we'd be a
Did
lot
you just
less
understand that, Adam? Because this is for you.
Yeah, it seems like. So would that mean that no
Let him
longer
wrap his
will
head
like
around
two
it.
clients use twice as much memory?
So they'll still use a little bit more than one, but not double.
Wow,
That's the idea, at least.
that'll make a lot of people happy.
Yeah, no more like tiny little boxes alts that you can't see anything in, just to save memory, save resources.
Wow,
Didn't
that's
you used to do
interesting.
that, Adam?
Yeah.
Here's my tiny little alt in this box. I just click pray. That's awesome.
Just
So
for a second, like if we can just hold on, what goes in this spot here?
I thought you had the map open.
So I see like bars on marble, but it's not the marble.
It's not the
Oh,
marble
is it the
bar.
marble wall? Is it the marble wall barred?
Yes, it is.
Ah, okay, there it is.
There you go.
Okay.
So I was curious to know for the wood types, what would need to be done? Would like a new type of wood texture need to be brought into the game that could then be easily more alterable to other looking wood types?
Sort of.
Or
It's-
can we use the ones that we already have and alter it that way? Like, is it more of like
Alter
a
the
texture?
shades.
It's not so much a
It-
texture swap anymore.
Yeah, we're still sort of in discussions of how we want to do it, but the basic idea is we'd need to redo all the textures for wood, anything that's made out of wood,
Oh,
and split it off into the details of the texture, so any metal parts or anything, and then the actual wood background of it. And then that wood background can be done with a shader or something that changes on the fly.
So that seems like a lot of work.
That's the
But,
current plan of it, at
like,
least.
but it's like the type of work that would be greatly appreciated by many, I'm sure. Right?
I'm sure it would be.
And if you would also be greatly appreciated, make a comment below and let Budda know.
Cheer them on. You can do it.
No, but yeah, the new rendering system is been eye-opening in
I must say, there's one thing that I really love. It's so subtle, but it's like there seems to be this little fuzz, like a tiny bit of blurring that's there now, and I feel like it makes the game look so much more realistic. You know, like I pop over to Wurm Unlimited, and you can see the difference is so glaring. Like in Wurm Unlimited, it's like all the edges are sharp, everything looks very crisp, but that's not really like realistic. When I'm looking in the real world, things far off are like a little bit blurry.
something with
Yeah.
the rendering engine.
I think that's one of the new post-processing things that Samuel added.
Yeah. Ambient occlusion, I think.
Okay.
One of those many different cool textures. There's something, it was on the test server or something, and we noticed that there was some kind of extra depth, depth of field or field of depths, or what is it called? You could notice the how far away things were a lot more than they used to be. I don't know why. I don't know how. It just was kind of cool. Kind of cool to notice that.
Like, what do you mean?
Oh, like things far away actually felt like they were more far away.
Okay.
I think we actually mentioned in a video at some point. But yes, have we talked about the new tutorial? Huh? This would be a question for you, Retro. I believe that it was mentioned at some point that there would be a new tutorial, or that a new tutorial was being worked on. I know a lot of people bypass the tutorial these days. I don't know how much a new player uses the current tutorial that they have right now, because it's so easily passable. But I don't know the stats.
Tutorials in games often passed a lot anyways.
If it was up to you, would you just slap them in the middle of somewhere?
I think a system more geared towards learning by doing is important, and that's kind of what we want to impart. Like this, I think everyone's learnt how to terraform not by reading the wiki, but by getting their shovel, digging, leveling, and seeing how it changes things around them.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same for a lot of factors. So we're sort of looking at a system that can teach both in live servers and on a test server, as not test server, tutorial server. Something that can engage people and sort of teach them in a hands-on manner. So there is one in the works. With the next big update, we might be looking at a temporary, little bit more what's the word? Informative one rather than hands-on.
More
just a quick
informative
update
than we currently have.
Well, see, the current tutorial it's a lot of show and tell, pop-up stuff, but you don't notice if you're not using the notifications toolbar.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that actually pops up. It's a little exclamation mark down the bottom. So we might look at making those actually pop up so people can read them and sort of understand what's going on. But yeah, the larger overhaul is sort of in the works as well. There's been a fair few ideas about, I know they've mentioned like mentors and stuff in starter deeds and this, and I think that it's all geared around the same idea of teaching people to learn by doing. And so we want to find a way that can give everyone the opportunity to learn by doing without having to require other people to be there.
And since you brought up mentors, what exactly do you find, and for people that don't know, it would be like a veteran player or somebody that's been in the game could mentor a new player and give them achievements or something to do, and what would the problem be there?
Well, I think a lot of that is finding an incentive to be a mentor that wouldn't just be easily gained. B, a sort of, we get a wide range of people in. Do we force everyone to find one, or is it an opt-in system? We're better off with a system that's automated as opposed to requiring people, because there's so many different elements if we're dealing with different people. And yeah, I can understand like the idea of everybody needs someone to guide them. Learning by yourself or doing everything by yourself is a struggling one. But I think that they kind of overshoot the mark in trying to be too helpful in a lot of cases. And I think
how do you be too helpful?
Well, I think everyone here has our stories of struggling in the first days of Wurm. We remember that sense of accomplishment, that first tool we made, the first house we built. I remember starting with the
hole that we dug. We'll never forget.
I remember I lived with some friends in a little fenced-in area on the side of Freedom Docks on Independence. I had someone, we made a small cart, and my friend spent like an hour dragging it to the nearest clay spot. dug clay, loaded it up, and dragged it all the way back. And there's lots of little things like that, and I think everyone has those things. Nowadays, a lot of places tend to, someone joins, a new player joins, and it's, here's your 2-story 3x3 house with 70 quality furniture inside. Here's your choice of 90 quality tools. Here is basically everything you need without that struggle of learning, and it kind of overshoots people getting their head around the game with small goals. You want to learn about crafting because you need to make a mallet, so you have a goal and you have a reason to accomplish that goal, instead of being handed a mallet and being told, yeah, now go grind a skill. If you've been handed everything, there's sort of not much to really aim for. Whereas we obviously kind of want players to sort of wind up in the wild and be like, okay, I need to make myself a safe place. So their goal is to find an area they like. It is to protect themselves. It is to plan and build their first house, make their first tools. But that slow progression of what they need to do, instead of being basically handed everything up to one step from the finish line and going, well, now you can grind all. So yeah, it's that's where I think people kind of overshoot the mark in a lot of systems. They tell new players, if you join, you'll get all these cool benefits, which sound cool, but kind of bypass the that learning initial part of Wurm that we all went through.
I remember back on Delhi, there was like we would meet new players all the time, and we always wanted to welcome new players either to our deed or to help them by giving them something that we were able to make. I remember this one guy had given him like a set of leather armor, and it was like not great quality, but like maybe 50 or 60 quality or something. Like gave him a full set of leather armor, and it was like shortly after he just stopped playing. And I was like worried that like maybe it was because I had given him stuff and he just felt like, what's the point of playing if all I'm doing is just getting stuff from other people? I don't know. I had that thought in my mind.
Exactly. There's that always age-old saying, don't grind us, just play the game and the skills come. Mm-hmm. That sort of works when you set yourself goals of, I want to build this house. I want to, I want to have this farm. I need food, so I go farm. But when you're handed all of it, basically all that's left is grinding.
Right.
If you can go to your village and say, I need a 90 quality anything, and you'll get it, there's little incentive and drive to get out there and actually get these things yourself.
Right.
So it does sort of bypass that a lot.
I wonder how much there's a correlation between people that get handed stuff and then the people that have these huge ambitious goals to try to build something so massive or try to get their skill up so quickly, and then they just quit part way through because they didn't realize how hard it was.
I've seen people join when they're like, I'm gonna have a massive castle, and then they slowly realize that this needs a lot of bricks, it needs a lot of mortar, it needs a lot of masonry, and they wind up being like, yeah, okay, this is a bit beyond me. But I've also seen someone join and they're like, I want a castle, and he knew it would take time, so I went by and he's building this little 2x2, and he's like, oh, this is the corner part. And then later on I came back and he had like a 3x2, and he's like, yeah, I got my skill up, so this is the entrance. And over the course of about 6 months to a year, he had this huge castle that was made up of little buildings that he'd connected with tall stone walls. And to me, that was great, because it was a self-set goal that he could achieve in little pieces. Whereas the ones that aim for the building that takes 99 carpentry to plan, then if you're setting your goal that high, you're not gonna make it 9 times out of 10. You're gonna sit there and go, well, that's too high, and you wind up burning out. So
what's funny is
I think the people who the ones who set themselves little goals as sort of milestones towards the greater goal, I think that's
it's like those guys that made a Labyrinth Castle and thought,
Right.
yeah, they could finish it.
I was just about to say, it makes me now think that maybe people watching like our videos, like our old videos of us like building on with Twilight, might give them a false sense of what they can do as a new player in this game.
Yeah, I think it varies a lot between new players and old players. Like, I have literally seen my friend had someone move into his local, and they were like, yeah, I'm building a massive castle, and over the course of about a month or two, this massive castle was built because the guy had the skill and the resources to just do it all in one go. Whereas, someone starting out obviously doesn't have that. And, they're better off going in small pieces.
Wait. Am I right to say, Adam, that you just said that we ruined the game for a whole bunch of people watching our videos?
It just made me think of that potentially.
I think it's great setting those long-term goals, inspiring people. Like, I think that's what your buildings do with people. They inspire and be like, I want to emulate that.
That's what our year-long Labyrinth have been doing. It's got to be over a year now.
Yeah, this has been over a year for sure. We started this like probably even a year before we started Linton.
God, and when did we start Linton?
Probably it's closing in on a year ago.
It's been a little while. God, it feels like it's almost done, but also doesn't feel like it's almost done.
Yeah. No job in Wurm is ever truly done.
Yeah, I just keep looking around and I just keep finding more and more and more stuff that is unfinished. Not to mention the whole castle. So at this point, we had a whole bunch of ideas that we want to bring up and just get your guys' take on it. All right. Here's the first one.
These are collected from suggestions and ideas thread or our Patreon comments or YouTube comments, and
so I can't just say they're all terrible. Damn.
I guess you could, but
no, please no.
All right. This is one that I was thinking of based on a cottage trip I just had, and that's having actual docks on the water.
And I also think that this one was suggested even on one of our.
It probably
videos.
was, yeah.
Yeah, I think back when bridges were first done, we looked at something like this. It was like a one-ended bridge, basically, that goes out over water.
Yeah.
I just don't think we ever got back to it.
But it is technically possible.
Yeah, well, anything's possible. I shouldn't say that. Everyone's just thought of
anything's possible.
Anything's possible when you have enough time. We'll put it that way.
I remember asking that. I used to ask, pass on this suggestion. Is this possible? And I remember being told, for God's sake, anything's possible. It can all be done. It's just whether there's enough time in the world to do it.
Mm-hmm. But
it's man hours, I guess.
Yeah.
So how about you, Adam? I'm sure you have some.
Oh yes. So, like a long dream of mine, and I'm sure lots of other people, and at some point or another there was something mentioned about this. Putting stuff on tables and or mounting things on walls. Is this something that is just a dream of ours, or is it something that is, well, as you said, anything's possible, but is that something that is
that's right,
reasonably
possible.
reasonably foreseen?
It's something that's on the list.
Okay.
The very long list. But it's on there. We've looked at it already. We know how we want to do it. It's just a matter of doing it.
Okay.
So it's like very high on the list. Is that what we're getting?
No comment.
I know
the first stages of it were with the cooking update, and beehives, how they're halfway up a tree. So a few changes had to happen to actually get them floating in the middle of the air, basically.
That's right.
So now that that exists, we can technically put items anywhere we want. It's just a matter of having them fall to the table or something.
Right.
Sit on the table properly.
The funniest thing when we were doing initial testing for that, you could push beehives. So you could literally like push these floating things out in the middle of nowhere. They'd be like not connected to any tree.
It's kind of funny.
But, yeah, that is one I want.
Ooh.
Oh, and yeah, I want it too.
How about, and this is one that's not even on the list here. Now that the new, I don't know if the rendering system has anything to do with this. How about having weather that's more apparent in the game, and like big thunderstorms, or I don't know. I haven't even seen fog in a while. Is that still in the game?
One thing about thunderstorms that I've always noticed is that you could have a thunderstorm at the same time as it's like clear and sunny at the same time.
Or at least raining when it's clear and sunny.
Yeah.
Anything like this been looked at? Winter, like blizzards?
Ooh. You want to make winter worse?
I want to make winter bad.
He's a Canadian. What do you expect?
We want the snow like 10 feet tall.
Have to take a shovel
There's
everywhere.
no winter, there's just summer. What winter is Canadian summer?
We need the special snowshoes.
There's nothing really planned at the moment for any additional weather stuff, but it's not to say it won't happen ever.
But the actual question, or the suggestion here that was really on the paper, we noticed that certain things like rain come through the roofs of our houses. Is that possible to have not happened?
Maybe. I mean, yes, but maybe.
Anything's possible.
Yeah. It's not a simple check or something.
It's something that seems simple, but is very complicated.
Yeah. I think I tried looking at it a few years ago, and I just gave up on it at that point. I'm sure if someone like Samuel looked at it, he'd be able to figure it out in like an hour, but...
So Samuel, if you're listening to this...
Go bribe him.
Yeah. Get back to work.
Oh goodness, did we just use all the planks?
I still have some. But yes, we did just use all the planks, and we did not finish this level.
Didn't even dent this level. Gotta go
Did
back
pretty
to plank.
good. How did I run out of nails already?
So another suggestion that was mentioned before, we had mentioned before, it was from one of our patrons. Because food decays in our inventory, it also decays just as fast on a merchant's inventory, and this makes it so that food can't be sold via merchant very effectively. Is this something that, I mean, in your eyes, should be looked at, or could be looked at to change so that people can sell their food wares?
The issue with it is people using merchants as just alts to hold stuff and never decay. That's why it exists. Whether we want to change that or not, I'm not 100% sure.
So there is a reason.
Yeah.
I actually did have an idea about this. And I think
Probably terrible.
it's usually is a terrible idea. But the idea of, like, you know, obviously there was the fear of them being used as the no decay storage, similar to a magic chest. I reckon there's ways we could sort of combine the effects of the two. Basically, instead of just using a merchant, introduce a new type of salesman that, can sell food and drink, but obviously, a slightly higher price to reflect the fact that it keeps these things decay free or something,
I think
Yep.
the better option is letting them sell wrapped food and sealed things.
Yeah.
But then having some additional check in there to make sure people aren't just grabbing it back off their merchant for free as a storage.
Here's another thought.
Ooh.
That food decays extremely rapidly when it's in your inventory, but not so much when, let's say, wrapped and put in a larder that has snowballs. Like, food can last like a month or two in that situation. Is there any reason why food in inventory is like super fast, and then we now have capabilities of like extending food life?
We could balance the merchant against like a larder or something, so it's no better than a larder.
Yeah,
I guess that would work.
that would be pretty good.
This
think
isn't
people would
promising
be very
anything, by the way.
Right.
Don't
You
expect
hear that?
this
He
next
just
week.
promised. That,
We have it recorded.
no, yeah, there's definitely would be a lot of people happy about that. So we had this question I believe we asked both of you guys in your previous interviews, and I think it makes more sense to ask it now, especially for Budda here. The question exactly was, if you had your way, if you had your say, what would the next big thing in Wurm be?
Now we're talking like big things, so once all the big things that we've just talked about have been implemented, what's the next big thing?
You don't even need him here to answer this. I can answer it for him.
Oh yeah.
Go on, I can't think. What?
There was, in one of his dev blogs, there was a little bit of a teaser.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
Was there?
And I know it's something that he's been rather keen on for a long while.
Trying to make me remember now. Where was that blog?
Adam, are you checking the map?
Oh yeah, right. I'm just blindly doing this. And this is the floor where everything shrinks.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm curious if you'll actually pick it. This is a little awkward if he doesn't get it. It's like, I hear you totally want this.
No.
Want what?
And was it the last dev blog that I did?
No.
No? Oh god, you're making it harder now. Oh,
Oh,
I know what you're talking about.
that was a big
Okay.
light bulb.
Right. Yeah, no, I remember it now. It was a hidden link, wasn't it?
Yes.
Oh, another
Was it?
hidden link.
Did anybody
people
find
found
this
it.
hidden link?
Yeah, they did. I think
Yeah.
they did.
Okay. All right. So it's
But
not
they
new-
might not
new
have
news.
understood what it was.
Where do I find your
Yeah,
dad?
oh,
Is it linked in the forums somewhere?
it's... Hold on, I'll put it in Discord for you.
Okay. But for people who are watching
It's
this
not-
video, they want to go look at it.
It's his Worm Roadmap, May 2017,
Oh yes, yes,
It-
yes.
in the
Yeah.
City Hall.
It's not a very hidden link.
Right, I've read this.
Yeah. No, I'm way better at hiding them.
But I never found this hidden link.
Yeah. I wanted people to see this one though.
The first comment was literally on the link. So
Yeah.
Oh yes, I did see this.
Is that the VR
Yes.
one?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that what we're talking about? Oh my god, I
Yeah.
remember that. So that's the first thing you would work on?
Now that he's reminded me of it, yeah, probably. That the GIF there that I recorded, that was me walking around in my room, looking up at everything, and it was amazing.
Oh, yeah?
So
It just brought a whole new dimension to Wurm.
so do you have a VR headset? So
Yeah, I've got a Vive.
you have a Vive. So when you were testing it, did it seem like Wurm at the moment has the correct, I don't know, speed of the character speed? Because I know I was reading somewhere where previous games that weren't really built for VR, when they turned it into VR, it felt like our characters were like walking really, really fast or like not quite real.
Yes,
Don't
we need
remember
to
noticing
make movement speed slower.
Because we need to make movement speed
That's it.
slower. That's right.
I'm sure people will love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good plan.
I can
like
just
it.
see someone getting on a hell horse and making themselves sick, moving at like 40 kilometers an hour.
Well, the one I was walking around in there, I didn't really notice anything.
That's good.
I remember noticing, you know how when you're in game and like the tiles are 4 meters by 4 meters, but it doesn't really
Yeah.
seem like it.
Yeah.
They really are 4 meters by 4 meters.
It actually
When
felt
you're
like,
in VR,
wow.
Yeah, you notice it in VR.
Wow. I would love to experience it in VR. Maybe you can introduce a new feature of seasickness on boats. Huh?
I like that thought.
Yeah. I'd always wanted to have, like, to buy, I don't know, a Vive or a Rift, but I don't know, I don't have any reason to upgrade my computer other than wanting a Rift or a Vive.
Well, isn't that a
pretty cool.
perfectly good reason?
Yeah, but spending $1,000 just to spend another $1,000 in Canada.
Yeah.
Although they're
Really fun though.
yeah, I know. I'm like just on the generations before we're able. Actually, no, I'm like way behind. I'm on
Yeah,
a 670 graphics card, so not even close to the 970 that we need to even do VR.
I had a 970 when I first got this, but I'm on a 1070 now.
Is there much
The 10
difference?
Yeah, the 10 series is a lot better with VR.
Oh, see, Adam has a computer that can do VR, but it's a laptop.
Yeah.
But you have what, a 1060?
1060. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I just need to upgrade.
Yeah. Wait a generation.
I'm waiting for like the second generation of VR headsets to come out. They're just not. I don't know. It's been a year and a bit.
Yeah,
Although
I don't
Microsoft's
think it'll
coming
be
out
out.
with some.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of small companies are coming out with their own as well, which will work with Steam and Steam VR and all that, which is pretty cool.
HP's coming out
doesn't
with
make much
theirs.
sense.
Asus is coming out with theirs. Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully it just brings down the prices.
Yeah.
And gets them like a lot more mainstream. That'd be great. Got to have more here, right?
Yeah. Did you run out of planks?
Oh, I definitely did.
Okay, so yeah. It's very possible that we have no more planks.
That's great. Do we have any more questions?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's. So this is where in the previous two episode interviews that we had with you guys, we always had a section where it was like, now here's the hard questions. I wrote a few down.
The hard questions.
So sometimes it seems like, and we kind of touched upon this in our discussions, but I think, sometimes it seems like a suggestion gets put on the forums, and then next thing you know, it's like announced that it will be in the next update, and like and this happens several times. I've seen it, and it's amazing. It makes the community feel like, you guys are listening to them, and it's just great. And then there's other times where a suggestion happens, and there's a lot of support for it, and it seems like a good quality of life improvement, but it never sees the light of day. What is the process that drives like the suggestions leading to development, leading to being released in the game?
It really depends on what the suggestion is, how much work it would take, and how much gain it would give. Like
So
there's some suggestions that we read and are like, oh yes, that makes sense. I don't see why we didn't do that before, and then we just do a quick change and it's in. But then other things, they need a bit more thought. Like it might sound really good when you first think of it, but then once you dive into it a bit, issues pop up, and it might need a lot more changes than was first thought or something, or it needs a lot more testing, or a bunch of different reasons that might delay it, or
So I guess it comes down to sorry.
No, you're right.
I guess it comes down to like the person gives a suggestion, they think it might be easy, but it's like kind of hit or miss whether or not it actually would be easy to be implemented, or now I know and this might be just I have no real good background in coding, but so, there's some people have mentioned on certain suggestions that like things have been added to Wurm Unlimited server through a mod or something like that, but for some reason it doesn't seem like and from their perspective it seems like it should be an easy fix because it's already a Wurm Unlimited mod. But again, it doesn't get implemented. Is there something like different about how you would code a mod versus how you would actually change the code for Wurm Online?
Mods are done differently, yeah. Although normally they involve more work than what we'd have to do. Which is funny.
Okay.
That doesn't help my argument at all, does it?
There is also the fact though that mods are mods. If it's an official mechanic, it has to work right 100% of the time, or be addressed. Whereas mods, they have bugs. They're unstable, and they're accepted because they're mods for the game. So a lot of the time, like a mod might be, it's in there, but it doesn't really function well with everything else, or it could even be against what we're planning for the future. I know there's been some times where a suggestion's come up and it's like, well, we're planning on doing this and we can't have both, so we can't say, hey guys, no, because we're doing this, but we can't have both. So while there's people going, yes, we need this, kind of like, well, we'll be introducing something to address it, but we can't give any information yet. And the other thing with mods is there's also a different level of balance and scale to address. Wurm Unlimited servers are much smaller than the Wurm Online servers. So something that balances across a small community of say 20-30 people won't balance across a community of thousands.
Right. That makes sense.
Ability, like one mod that I actually find interesting is a small chance of receiving like a rare bone from sacking a rare item. In a smaller server, that just means there's more chance of rare items actually entering the game, useful rares. But in Wurm Online, there's so many rares already in there. There's so many people digging, mining, everything that create these rares, that there would just be a huge influx, and it sort of doesn't scale up well. So a lot of these suggestions, like I spend a lot of time passing suggestions onto the dev team, talking about them, and there are some really good ones, but quite a lot of the time, some they just don't scale well, or there's just there's not the time to address it.
That makes perfect sense.
99% of the time, the answer is that's a great idea, but we just can't do it.
Right.
Yeah. There's always some sort of but.
Yeah.
Everyone has
Some
one.
of it may be, but we don't have the time, or but I'm doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
So
Or
this might actually you can answer with a but I have to ask this because it bothers me so much. I used to play a game called Vanguard quite a while ago, and since it's not a game anymore. But when I was playing it, the one thing that bugged me was things would just kind of pop up in the screen. I would approach something, and then all of a sudden, poop, it was there, and it was kind of jarring. And that the dev team realized that was happening and introduced like this transition that allowed it to fade in and be a lot more immersive, I guess. And I noticed Wurm has this kind of problem as well, in the sense that things that are in the distance, like let's say the tree models in the distance, will just kind of pop in when you get close to them, or
even like a building that's in the distance, or as something switches from the far level of detail to the close level of detail.
Or like now even like when the time of day shifts, and then all of a sudden there's like shadows everywhere, and it just kind of pops in. Is this something that has the ability to be addressed? Is this something looked at? Is this something that is even people know about on the dev team that they're concerned about?
Not specifically, although we can look at it. I know what you're talking about, though. I know the level of detail of models we've added over the last few years was meant to help some of that. But
it would be great, like if
the
the transition between
Right,
the
like-
level of details.
Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
love the level of detail stuff because it does like add so much to like if you're looking at a vast landscape, and I love it. It's only when, let's say, and it happens a lot with trees because there's the model for the close-up tree and the far tree are
Yeah.
different enough that there's like a big switch when it pops from one to the next.
well, the far trees are 2D, so that's
Mhm.
why.
Right.
But
I'm even seeing it
I
with
I have wanted in the past to redo all distant terrain and trees and everything. There are I've read articles over the years of people working on this sort of tech in games, and there's a lot of improvements that we could make in Wurm. It's just time, basically.
Right.
That's
that would
with
be
everything
pretty
else.
awesome.
the new client also catches us up with a lot of that, so we can actually do this stuff too.
Yeah.
Previously to that, we were working with very old systems, so it wasn't that great.
Yeah, I was hoping it would be a lot easier now with the new systems in place to just like introduce a transition, some kind of fade, some kind of thing that makes it less jarring. It helps a lot, I found, when I was making those trailers for Wurm. It was very tough to hide those like jarring transition, those popping in and out of trees and buildings and all that stuff.
Just don't look so far away.
Yeah. And it definitely happened when I had the shot of me on a boat, and I was trying to I was trying to like go away from land, and like every 5-10 seconds it would just like pop, something would change, and I'd have to hide it. I don't know if you see the end of the last trailer that I made, I think for Wurm Unlimited. I hid it with the Wurm Unlimited logo. Like just as it popped, like the Wurm Unlimited logo flies into the side, hiding it. I didn't know what else to do. So yeah, for videos of Wurm, it would help a lot to have some kind of transition there. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
I kind of agree, because I think when people say that the game looks dated, there's a few aspects that they're referring to. Not everything, but I think distant terrain and textures is one part of it. Faraway mountains don't look really mountainous. They look like funny rock
Blobs.
tiles.
Yeah.
Yeah, funny blobs. And definitely the trees in the distance. I know that I like when I'm taking aerial shots, I have to be careful too, because the shadow only renders in a certain distance, and obviously you kind of want the shadows in because it's what looks good. So you've got to be standing in the right distance, because you don't want these 2D things there, because they just look really, really out of place. So
Yeah.
I think that's one of the big things. And then I think the other thing that people like when they say, "Oh, the graphics are bad," and they don't fully understand is the way tiles work. So they see basically everything as like the tiles that have angular shapes if dug down and all that.
Yeah.
So that's sort of one thing that's basically no, it's not so much a old graphics. It's a representation of how the world is shaped.
Looks,
Right,
yeah.
and,
So
and how that
that
texture
one
gets stretched and
yeah, that one gets textures. Some textures are not designed to be stretched over a 300 slope.
right.
And yeah, they look a little bit weird like that.
Another thing that we noticed was, the wonderful mask that we got in that event, and the shoulder items, other vanity items that you would wear, they're all taking damage. The first thing I did was put it on and start hitting a troll, and the troll started wrecking my mask. So I had to
Well, he was jealous of it.
yeah, I had to take it off, and there's no way to imp it or keep it
fix the
up,
damage.
fix the damage. Is that even? I don't know. Was that planned? Was that overlooked, or?
It's more of a bug.
It's more of
They
a
should-
bug. We found a bug.
They shouldn't be taking damage in the first place.
Oh.
I think the shoulders are meant to, though. The shoulders provide a bonus that when that bonus is used in any calculation, they'll take a slight amount of damage.
Yeah. Some of the rift items that give bonuses and all that, they're meant to, they're designed to take damage like that, as you said.
Okay.
But the mask and
more
stuff,
cosmetic
are
masks.
bugs.
Yeah.
So for now, we just have to not wear our beautiful masks on our faces until that's fixed, I guess.
Well, you can.
I'll
just
see if
don't
I
go
can
running
nag
into
it.
a troll.
I'll see if I can nag a dev about it. I don't know any of those, so.
No. Good luck.
Oh man. Any other questions you have, Adam?
This is my last and I guess most passionate one, and that is the issue surrounding mining and how mining is completely different than any other skill in the game, in that there seems to be something left over from a decision that was made long ago to like I know that mining used to be super long action timers, longer than they are now, and then at some point they decided to cap it at 20-second mining actions at the beginning. Now is there any, I mean, do you know what the reason was for making mining actions so long in comparison to everything else, like chopping wood and stuff? And why is it sort of stayed that way? Yeah.
This goes back to very beginning of Wurm, I think. It was one of the first skills that he put in the game, and I think that was just how long actions were back then. I know it's been changed multiple times over the years to try and make it easier for new players. Like first it was dropped down to 30 seconds max, and then 25
Dropped
maybe.
down to 30.
Yeah, like it used to be real bad.
I think one of the most jarring things for it is only the first action is capped. So when you're starting out, your first action will be 20 seconds. Your second action will be like 35
something,
seconds.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's one other thing.
So is there?
It's strange because it actually gets quite fast once you've gotten sufficient skill in
Oh
the
yeah,
New Ages,
totally,
so
totally. Like
that's
there's
what
no
I don't get either.
like at my skill, like I'm not complaining at all. It's I noticed it a lot when I went onto Mystic Highlands, where they have a one times server. Like the skills go up at 1 times, and the action timers are 1 time. So the first action's 20 seconds, second action's 30 some odd seconds, and
Yeah,
and
that's where it starts to be like, hang on.
yeah, and I wasn't seeing any gains whatsoever in the action timer until I got to like just before 20 skill, and I had gotten a 50 quality pickaxe from somebody, which is pretty high on that server. Like, like, and it was like to get to 20 skill took forever, like forever in comparison to my wood cutting went to 20 pretty quick. Like all my other skills got to 20 not so bad, but mining was like a lot of time put into it, and it made me start thinking like, why is mining like this? And I mentioned it on a video, and there was a comment saying, well, it's to prevent new players from like messing up all the mines, like opening them all up and making a big mess of like starter areas and stuff like that. But I was thinking about that, and like, new players don't like the thing is that the tunnel action, like the action to open the tunnel, is actually kind of short. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing to stop a new
Surface
player
mining. Yeah, surface mining is a lot shorter timers if I.
but not surface
is.
mining. It's like
It's
the tunnel
the
action,
tunneling action.
the initial action that you would do on rock to open up the mine in the first place. Like it takes 50 actions to open it up, but as a new player, the tunnel actions are actually kind of short comparatively. They're like 15 seconds or 14 seconds or something like that. So a new player can go and open up the tunnel, fine. It's just the moment once they go in, then all of a sudden the actions start taking that much longer.
Yeah, it just sounds like it needs another look at, to be honest.
Like reversing those.
Bring it down to 15. No.
Yeah.
I mean, from the new player perspective, the only thing really that I was noticing that I wasn't seeing any progress. Like for so long, my action timer stayed at 20 seconds. I was probably 2 or 3 days of playing time into playing.
Yeah,
right. Before
I recall that actually. One of my first goals of grinding mining was for the first action to be under 20 seconds.
Right.
Yeah, that was my goal. I literally got my pickaxe and was just like, I am going to nut this one out until I have an under 27 start action. And I was so excited by it, and then I realized that the second one was still like 28 seconds.
Right. I was so excited as well, but yeah, it's like 19.9 seconds. Like, sweet. But after that, actually, it started going down like pretty regularly. Like you can start seeing the progress, and you start feeling better about it after that. It was just a very.
It sounds like it's not capping it properly, to be honest. Like it sounds like it's actually a 30-second timer still. It's just made to look like 20.
Right, and I think that's what
starting at max 20.
Yeah, that's basically it. It starts at max 20, even though the real is actually like 30.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, is that something that might get looked at some point, or?
I don't know. It depends on how big the bribe is.
This is all you, Adam.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Drake set looks nice.
Yeah, I'll have to think of something. I mean, I'm past that point for on my guy, so like, but I thought it was like, from a new player's perspective. Sorry.
What mining are you at the moment?
So this is on my Wurm Unlimited. I got to, I don't know. I think I'm now at 30 something. So And
So
then
if
I
I
also
make the timers even longer, then you'll be more likely to bribe.
right.
Got it.
I guess
No,
you have
I
the power
think
to do
one
that.
thing, I think one thing that a lot of people forget is what it's like starting off as a new player with no knowledge. They've got the knowledge now, so even if they start a new player, it's with the basis of knowing how everything works.
Right.
So there's a lot of work there that's, it might not make sense to someone who has been around a lot more because they've got a sort of better knowledge of what's best and what you need to prioritize in that. Whereas new players, they might think that, oh yeah, I need to go collect pigs to have meat, and obviously different things affect them, and they don't understand how many of the mechanics work. Like, one thing that's always slightly confused me is like the whole skill gain system in Wurm Online, where you've got to get that 1.01 to 39.99 result, roughly,
Right.
in very loose terms. For a new player, that sort of doesn't make a lot of sense. I remember someone telling me when I was a new player, and I'm like, nah, you're wrong. That sounds stupid. And uh, thankfully, I don't remember who it is, because otherwise I'd have to issue them an apology right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's sort of like a lot of things that won't make sense to a new player starting out. And I can agree with you on the especially on the tunneling thing. Even 50 actions to get in, they're like, okay, so I need iron. How do I get iron? You make a mine. And then spending so long, and these timers being so long, they tend to grow bored pretty quickly. I know I've done it. I've been like, oh yeah, I need to get some iron, so I'll go looking and start mining, and then I'm like, yeah, I'm over this. I'm gonna go and
On the
do
other
something
3
hand,
days later.
I
Yep.
like it, what it does as a positive is it makes it so that mining is a lot rarer of a skill that people have. People are turned off by it, so they don't do mining, and therefore the people who do get their mining skill up do have, the benefit of it's not such a common skill to have.
I still don't understand how ping pong grinded it to 100.
Right.
Like, I remember riding through where was it? I was riding through Ping Pong's Folly, or no, maybe it was Kenos Canal. That's that's got the sign that has Ping Pong reached 100 on this day at such and such. And I remember reading that going, what the hell? How? What? Why?
Yeah. And I hear that the
it was
grind
just
from
absolutely
99.9 to 100, that like last little bit is
Yeah.
just insane.
I wouldn't understand. Yeah.
He lives in my local, so I make fun of him whenever he comes by. But yeah,
awesome.
he doesn't come by often now, strangely enough.
Well, I wanted to end with a more, I don't know, fun question. I wanted to know from both of you guys, what makes Wurm great for you? What pulled you in? What feature about it makes you continue to be here today? Either one can start.
Well, I will definitely say the ability to shape and change the land around you. Like, I've spent time with people, and they're like, I've got to find the right place. I've got to find the right place. And I was like, dude, it's Wurm. You can find any place and make it the right place. You want a bay, get a shovel and start digging. If you want, these cliffs, start mining. It's really great that, people always say, I've got to find the perfect spot. And it's like, you can make the perfect spot. And I think that's what's great for me. I can decide, ride around and just basically wait for inspiration and be like, yes, I want to do this.
Yeah.
So I usually ride around. I've found some areas that have just made me go, yes, I want to do this. And I might do it in that spot, might do it somewhere else. But yeah, it's definitely the ability to just like really change the world around you. That does it for me.
Yeah, I think that's the same for me too. What about you, Buddha?
I just think it's one of the better sandboxes available at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone's had the same point where they get in Wurm and you kind of burn out a bit, so you go looking for other games. Can't find one that's just as good as Wurm. Doesn't scratch that itch.
What scratches your itch?
It's hard to describe, and I'm sure you're well aware of hard to describe Wurm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more like you go find another sandbox game, fun for a bit, but then you realize, it doesn't have this thing, or
it's missing a lot.
Doesn't have terraforming, or it doesn't properly mine into something, or you can't build your house exactly how you want it. It's all these pre-built houses that you have to build.
Mm-hmm.
It blows me away that these games call themselves sandbox and they don't have terraforming, and I'm like, it feels so strange not having terraforming. Like, you'd think.
Well, they do have terraforming. It's way too complex. Like, what was EverQuest Next or whatever? What was the sandbox version they put out for that?
EverQuest Landmark.
Landmark. That's it. Like, I played that for a while, and the terraforming in it just seemed way too complex.
However, that's what I said about Wurm when I first started.
It seemed like you could do everything, but it would take you forever. Whereas Wurm, it would take you forever as well, but it would be a little bit more simple.
It's Wurm, terraforming in Wurm is one of those concepts that you need to sort of do for a little bit to get your mind around it. But as soon as you get your mind around it, you really start realizing just how powerful it is and how much you can do in such a short amount of time.
Right.
You know, you can be like, "Ooh, I can do all this," and then next thing you know, you've got these massive buildings up. And I remember one of my first experiences in Wurm was extending a little 2-tile plateau into a 4-tile plateau to make a farm. It took me about 5 days to get done, but I was so proud of it. And I called my villager over and I'm like, "Check this out." And she's like, "Yeah, you've got a some farm tiles." I'm like, "Yeah, but I've dug all this out." And she didn't understand. She hadn't dug. And yeah, I'm like, "Oh, you just don't understand it." She's, "Yeah, you're right, I don't. I'm going back up here." And
is it maybe surprising just how far Wurm has gone that it's just surpassed all these other sandbox games that claim to be sandbox games? I don't know, like
I think it's mostly because we've had a huge head start.
That's true.
Wurm's been around, 2003, 2004 it first started, and latest sandbox games coming out in the last 5 years, they just have no chance of catching up on features that Wurm has.
But to be fair, I mean, when we started in, 2012, there was no multi-story, there was no bridges, there was no building in mines, like tons of stuff. It almost feels like it was a very far primitive version of what Wurm is now. And the strides that has taken in the last 5 years, I guess, is just insane. Without those features being added in the last 5 years, games could have caught up. Could have been. So kind of
it's more like we had the base for everything by that point in 2010, 2012 or whatever, and from there we can just keep adding stuff, fixing stuff as we go along, but mostly adding stuff. Whereas these new games, they might come in a few years ago, but where they've only just started on the base or just got the base right or tweaking the base before they can actually look at starting to add everything that they want to do.
Yeah.
We also spend a lot of time, taking suggestions and working with players. I think a lot of games tend to be, here's the game, enjoy it. We'll take some feedback and we'll make tweaks, but we've had, players suggest entire systems that have wound up in the game. I think 2008 was when Titch first described what she wanted to see, like her suggestion for the cooking system, and 8 years later, she's actually brought that into reality.
Sick of waiting to do it myself.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I still always look back on that one, and I kind of laugh at the guy that's like, well, this is most of the work done. This can be implemented rather easy, and I find it mostly amusing because it was even the person that suggested it all still took all this time. It wasn't just. It's just one of those things, and
Is Titch still a volunteer dev?
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Thank you
she's
so much to her.
incredibly.
She's- Yeah, that's just amazing.
She's working on the Wagoner at the moment.
Oh yeah,
Doing awesome work with that.
that's amazing.
It's also funny, rather large projects see a lot of little side projects come in. One thing, the crate rack. The crate rack exists because she wanted a way for the Wagoner to pick up and deliver. And so,
Oh.
it's like this place to put crates, and it's like, okay, so we'll need a crate rack. And that came in, and it's funny sort of what comes in as time goes on, which is actually just part of this bigger project.
Huh.
Like
So-
That's
So
kind
we
of
knew
crazy.
you guys knew the Wagoneer was coming before crate racks even were in the game.
the Wagoner was
While we were
basically
working on highways.
Yeah, it was the same part of the highway pitch, I believe.
It was. I think we were wanting it to come out with highways, but then we realized, oh no, this is going to take a lot longer.
Mm.
Yeah,
But not all that much longer. It's only been a couple months. Not even.
Well, yeah.
I had a lot of people saying highways are cool and all, but it's like, yeah, I know.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
now with this, I make the effort of connecting big highway networks and putting them
Is he cutting out for you guys?
through areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trade and
Sorry, Retro, you're cutting out a little bit.
on their island.
I heard something about an island. And I think with that,
Yeah, no, that's no worries. I think I dropped out.
Just a
That's
little
okay.
cutting out.
Yeah,
It's
I blame
okay.
Australian internet.
it's okay. We managed to have a good conversation. We managed to build, I guess, a level and a half of our castle. That's pretty good. We managed to
Yeah.
run out of planks again.
I'm back up to
And-
250 planks. So.
Oh, 250 planks. That's awesome. And
Time
I
to make more
managed.
planks.
I managed to watch a cow try to traverse my labyrinth. So, yeah, it got lost in the corner there somewhere. What am I going to find out? I haven't even been in the first part of the labyrinth in a while. I bet there's a whole bunch of animals that have spawned in there. Anyway, more importantly, we've learned a lot about the game. Yeah, thanks both of you for being on the show again. It's always great to have you both on.
Mm.
No problem.
Yeah. So we'll
Yeah, no, it's
definitely,
been great to be here.
yeah, we'll definitely do it again sometime. We've learned a lot over the last few episodes, and we can't wait to see what's going to come into the game in the future, and we can't wait to test more of the features that are coming in that big update. I really can't wait.
Absolutely.
So with that, we will be back in the labyrinth, I'm sure, in our next few videos. I mean, God, we're not quite there yet, as we can kind of see just so much left. What do we actually have left? We still
The
have
mine?
the castle. We still have that crazy mine that was supposed to be so simple and so easy, and
It's
now
moving along. It's moving along.
now it seems like it's as big as the freaking labyrinth. I don't know. What are we doing?
Having fun.
It's a never-ending labyrinth. But hopefully it'll finish soon. I don't know. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys, for joining us. If you have any comments or suggestions, please leave below, and we will get to them eventually, I would assume. Anyway, keep on worming. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care, everyone.